let me do that. And hello and welcome. I'm not too sure whether or not it's working, but I hope it is. I'm currently trying OBS, Streamlabs OBS. So hopefully everything, it sounds as if my sound's working. I hope. Do you guys want to talk so I can see whether or not yours is?
No.
Yeah, cool. Hello. Yeah, that is working. Hello and welcome to Raph Inspired has just hosted me for 15 viewers, and Chugga has just subscribed for 13 months in a row. OMG, what's you mad months. I know, you mad fool, you.
No.
Mad fool.
I have nothing better to do with my money.
I know, thank you. Plus, I might just give up DMing if you didn't all subscribe. No, I wouldn't do that. Yeah, so hello and welcome. This is the second episode of Call of Cthulhu, and we started last week. And it went really well last week, and so we decided to come back and see how it's happening this week. So what we're going to do, last week I didn't allow the players an opportunity to introduce themselves and who they were playing, because it all happened within the game. But tonight they are going to be able to do that before I give a quick synopsis of what's been happening. So without further ado, we will go right the way down there. No, down there to Mr. Pickles. Would you like to say who you are, Mr. Pickles, and who you'll be playing tonight? Tonight, Matthew, I will be.
Absolutely. And I didn't get that at all. But I would love to introduce myself. I'm Mr. Pickles. I'm going to be playing Aaron Weber, our inquiry agent, which for the 1800s is more or less our private investigator. I'm kind of rugged and worn down from the grief of having my daughter murdered. That nobody believed me, not even my rich ex-wife.
We don't believe you.
Nobody believes me, but tonight maybe people will believe me about things that I heard and felt.
Yeah.
With that, I'm going to throw the microphone as aggressively as I can over to Chugga, if I may.
Yes, of course you may. Thank you. Hi, I am Chugga. Tonight I am playing Willard Peabody. Willard, or Peabody as most people seem to call him, is a artist, photographer, and he's the son of a millionaire, which is, for anybody else's friend, he's a hat maker. His father didn't think he was going to make much of his life, just painting and drawing. But Willard, he's determined to prove him wrong. He slowly started to climb the social ladder and is moving up in the world in that way. And I will pass on to Longshanks EPG.
Thank you very much, Chugga. Hi guys, my name is Longshanks EPG. Tonight I'm playing Dr. Gordon King. As you can kind of tell from his title, he is a doctor. He is a medical doctor. He is a fully trained medical doctor, and his main profession in that regard is surgeon, or early surgery as it happened in Victorian times. It was a relatively new profession, because before then they were slightly looked down upon, because the only way they could get people to practice on was to steal cadavers or dead bodies. So that whole thing is still a little bit stigmatized. He is of fairly upper class birth. His father was an officer in Her Majesty Queen Victoria's Horse Guards, and his mother's father was a doctor, and his dying wish was for my character Gordon King to become a doctor, and sort of like trained him, because there was no schools like there are nowadays, universities, to train doctors. Doctors learnt the profession by shadowing current doctors, getting a certificate, and by book study, more than let's practice cutting people up. And with that, I will pass it on to Inwells.
Okay, thank you. So let's have a quick synopsis of what's happened so far in the investigation. So, generally, the top and bottom of the investigation is that the three Victorian gentlemen are actually members of the Carlton Club, which is a gentleman's club in Victorian London in 1888. The campaign starts off in January with, and we know from the history books looking back that this is the year that the infamous Jack the Ripper will be striking and starting to murder around London. It's also the time of carriages and thick London smog. So it's a fun time for mysterious goings on. The three people are investigators, and they investigate a wealth of opportunities, and they have been summoned last week to Murphy Johnson's house when he reported that his young girl, his young daughter Rose, had gone missing, and he didn't want to get in touch with the local constabulary because Rose has a rather blemished past, and he doesn't want any of it to be coming back onto him. Okay, so the party started to investigate, and they found out that Rose was somewhat infatuated by an illusionist, a spiritualist of the time, a seance person called the Great Raspini, who is currently performing at the Egyptian Hall Theatre in central London. And they actually went and saw his show and were amazed by it. And afterwards, using the pretense of missing, having forgotten his hat within the theatre, Mr. Webber and Mr. Peabody ventured back in, befriending the caretaker and getting into the the auditorium to actually see whether or not they could find the hat. Mr. Webber, quite sneakily, actually got behind stage and went underground, under the actual stage, where he found a trapdoor that would open and lead up into the stage, and also various spooky going on, because the prop room is said by a local the people in the theatre to be said to be haunted. However, not to be perturbed by these hauntings, Mr. Webber continued and ventured forth and actually discovered some very important clues. Beyond all the spooky happenings, he found a scrap of Rose's dress, a green satin dress that she had been wearing 2 days ago, caught on a cabinet. He also found some oily footprints, heard a weird muffled scream, and found an Egyptian sarcophagus that, when opened, because the footprints sort of like headed to it, once opened, was absolutely empty. At that point, Mr. Peabody came down with the caretaker, and they claimed that they had found the hat or whatever, and they had headed back out of the theatre to head back to the Carlton Club after a brief night's sleep to decide what has happened. Now, guys, just to bring you up to date with a few things. Number one, development of skills. So any skill that you used and were successful in last adventure, okay, there should be a part on your sheet to tick it. Can you see there's a little cross next, a little empty box? So if you rolled any skills last week and they were actually successful, then you put a tick in that box. Now what that means that at the end of this adventure, you roll a D100. If you get above your current skill, then you gain 1d10 worth of points to add to it. So that's basically how the experience works. As luck would have it, you can actually use luck, remember, throughout the game to reduce your dice rolls, so you actually get a better chance of success. Now, I do think, did anybody use luck last week?
This guy.
Yeah, so what you do at the beginning of every session is that you have the opportunity to regain some luck. A bit like luck in Mithras happens. It doesn't go right the way back. You get the chance to regain it. So currently, Mr. Weber, what is your luck currently?
23.
23. So you may roll a 1d100 in order to... And you need to get above 23. Yes. Okay, roll a 1d10. So you get 3 points of luck back. Okay, and that happens to anybody. Did anybody else use any luck?
Nope.
No. Okay. The other thing that I would like to say is that I now know what the grey dice does in your skill.
Oh, me too.
Okay, so basically, at any time throughout the game, I can give you bonus dice if I choose. And basically what it does is that it rolls another D. If you think about when you're rolling your percentages, you're actually rolling a 10-sided dice for the tens and a 10-sided dice for the ones or units. What the bonus dice allows you to do, or penalty dice, is roll an additional D10 for the tens. So if I give you one bonus dice, it will automatically roll 2 dice that'll make the tens figure and 1d10 for the units. So you might get 41 and 14. Okay. If you get bonus dice, you take the lowest one. If you take a penalty dice, you take the highest one. And it will automatically tell you that you've succeeded on the dice roll. So there's no need to worry about it at all. It will actually come up. Okay, so that's basically it. So by all means, do tick off anything that you know you were successful at last adventure. If you can't remember whether or not you were successful, I haven't cleared the chat, so in your own time you can zoom right the way up to the top and have a look. But from this adventure, please make sure you click those dice if you use the skill and if you are successful. Okay, so we left last week's adventure, like I said, leaving the theatre. I think I'm right in saying that the theatre would be closed to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I think it was. It's either 2 or 4 when people started to come back. The great Raspini left last night with the so-called bodyguard, which was the guy who was guarding the doorway, and they rode off on a carriage and went somewhere, we don't know where. And then you guys went in. So we'll say that today's session starts off, it's the next day. You've been home, you've rested, and you've met back at the Carlton Club. We'll say it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. You've just met, you're reading the Times, you're having some coffee or tea because you're rich enough of high social class to do that. And you are now just sitting and people can regale them. Perhaps Mr. Weber, you will start because you can regale to the party what actually you found last night.
Mr. Weber has been more or less very visibly discomforted and just kind of fidgety, and whenever the first person who arrives is asked him any questions, he just wants to wait until the rest are here. And once you both are here, Aaron says to you guys, "I've got some serious concerns. I don't really know how to explain them."
Well, spit it out, get them out into the air, and we'll see what we can do.
I heard a scream when I was underneath the stage, and I couldn't locate it. It just sounded like it was coming from nowhere. I know there's somebody.
Lord, man! A scream?
Yeah, it sounded like it was coming from this sarcophagus, almost like one you'd expect to hear from a faraway land. But I opened it and nothing there. There were
good Lord! You heard a scream and decided to do nothing about it apart from sleep on it?
I couldn't find anything.
Good Lord! You're not in the frontier anymore. It could have been a lady's life at stake. Good Lord!
It might be Rose.
I hope I get some a donation for every time that Mr. Peabody says "Good Lord."
All I have is what I saw and heard, and what reaches into his pocket and pulls out the bit of the green dress and puts it on the coffee table in front. I found this as well.
If that is the case, Mr. Webber, then we should be going there straight away and doing more exploration to try and find her.
But
Peabody's going to stand up, sort of like suddenly going, Good Lord!
You sacked my battleship!
King, we need to get back there immediately. Immediately, with all due haste.
I completely agree. I will grab my coat and call a taxi. Dr. King says, like literally jumping up, grabbing his coat, not even bothering to put it on. It's trailing behind him as he's running out the door.
Peabody sort of like looks around, sees one of these butler things, and goes, "You there! You there! My coat, my hat, and my cane."
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And all due speed, all due speed.
Are you leaving, sir? Was there something not right with the service today?
The service was fine. There's lives at stake. Lives, I tell you.
Lives, sir.
Hurry, man, hurry.
Yes, sir. Your coat and hat and cane.
Yes.
Dr. King is standing outside. Hailing, if there's not a carriage, I would have thought there's a carriage sitting outside the Carlton Club anyway. If there's not, he'd be hailing a carriage ready to get one. For everyone to jump in and go.
Yes, the guy comes. Mr. Webber, what's your plans?
In mild shock that they even believe me, I make my way on out as well, as swiftly as I can, but less vocally.
Yeah.
You just hear Peabody going, "My God, Webber, my God."
Call yourself a gentleman. Yes, they're obviously.
It's not cricket.
Yeah, and the sort of like the butler sort of like person sort of like hurries after you, Mr. Peabody, as you're walking, and sort of like giving you your coat and hat and cane.
Peabody will stop in the foyer. He won't go out without being properly attired, so he will make sure that his coat's on and his hat is on before he opens the door. Well, he'll wait for the butler to open the door of the club before striding out.
Yeah, and as you sort of like go out, he sort of like says, the butler sort of like says, would sir like a hansom cab?
I think my colleague has already hailed one, thank you.
Oh, right. Well, I have a good day, and I do hope that the Carlton Club was of a satisfactory service today for you.
Yes, splendid. Good day to you.
Okay, yeah, and Dr. King has already summoned a hansom cab for you to get into, and as you get into it, the driver sort of like turns around to you as you're sort of like stepping into it and says, "Where to?"
Egyptian Hall Theatre.
Right away, sir.
There's an extra farthing in it if you make it within 10 minutes.
Yeah, and he sort of like goes, "Whoosh!" And the horse sort of like whinnies a bit, and you sort of like go over the cobble stones as you start to go carriage journey.
Have you got carriage journey music?
I can hear it. I don't know whether you can.
But then Zoom does funny things to sound.
While we're traveling,
what else have you kept from us about your rendezvous with this woman last night?
That's the thing. She could have been anywhere, still in there, I guess. There's a room full of cabinets, and I remember seeing two sets of footprints made of kind of an oily substance. It was dark, and it could have been me dripping lantern oil and, you know.
And standing in it twice?
I don't know. It just kind of looked like footprints. It wasn't fully...
Where did the footprints start?
The cabinet that I found, the green dress bit on, is kind of on the corner, torn, and led to the sarcophagus. And opened it up, but nothing was there.
So the footprints didn't go into the room? They appeared halfway in?
I wasn't looking at my feet much of my walk through, and I didn't have enough time to confirm that. That would have been a good thing to check for. A lot of things kept getting flung at me.
What is your career path?
I'm an inquiry agent.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, so I mean, we obviously need to get in there straight away. King, have you got your bag with you?
Of course, I'm never without it. And you notice that King has a rather rolled and slightly battered leather bag. You know, the ones with the wire bit in there, so that you open it and you undo the clip and it goes like that to open it. It's on his lap.
Hopefully you won't need it. Hopefully Weber didn't leave it too long, and the poor woman hasn't suffocated, or worse.
Hopefully not. We can always hope. I always prefer never to use this.
Driver, are we there yet?
A few more minutes yet, sir. A few more minutes. I'm going the best as I can. It's rather...
My God, Weber, my God. When we get there, we'll hammer on the door till somebody answers.
And why would they believe us?
Why would they not believe us?
Hearing screams, no reason for a person to be screaming down there. Couldn't find anybody.
If they refuse to believe us, then we shall ask them to get the constabulary.
Of course they have to believe us. I mean, there's no such thing as ghosts. Everyone knows that. It's good. So if you heard screams down there, Weber, then there must be someone down there.
So the Hanson cab, all of a sudden, there's a sudden pull on the horse's reins as the whole cab sort of like comes to a halt, and the driver opens a little sort of like slidey door so he can talk to you from the back. He says, "We are here, good sirs."
Good man. An extra farthing as promised.
Yeah, so you pay him.
And so 2 farthings, whatever.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and you are stood outside the Egyptian Hall Theatre. It looks like it's closed, obviously, and there's you notice outside that there's a new placard up that says one night only, the last performance of the great Raspini. Can you resist his powerful gaze? The mind reader of London. And there's sort of like that picture of him like this. Like that, with circles coming out of his eyes, concentric circles getting bigger.
Peabody will stride over to the door. He won't run or anything like that, but he will walk with purpose towards the door. And once he gets there, he'll upend his cane and he'll whack several times on the actual door to the theatre.
Yeah, so are you using the base of your cane? Or?
No, the actual silver embossed head of it.
Yeah, okay then. Could you make for me, please, a spot hidden roll? No, you want to use the green one.
Press the wrong button. Press the wrong one.
There's so many of them.
Extreme. That's a tick if ever I've seen
Yeah,
one.
and you sort of like go bang, 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 bang on the door. And on the last one, you notice that the door goes and opens a little way more. It's not actually locked at all. That's what your spot hidden was for. It's not actually locked, and if anything, when you arrived, you figure it was slightly ajar, and just by banging on it a few times, it's sort of like opened the door a little bit further.
Peabody will turn around, and if the other two are anywhere near.
Dr. King is a matter of steps away from Peabody at this point, holding onto his bag. He looks to see if he sees the door open. He goes, "Door's open. They must be open. We might as well go in, chaps."
Aaron's also following, hands in his pockets so that he could easily equip his knuckle dusters if necessary. Says, "Yeah, let's go on in, I guess."
Okay, cool. So you sort of like open the door wider, and you notice that both the doors are off the snack, so there's no bolts in them. Both the doors open, and you go into almost like the foyer of the theatre. There's as before, there is the double door entrance to the auditorium, and then there's a single door entrance that leads to the backstage area.
We should make them aware that we are here.
Of course, we don't want to be accused of breaking and entering. Although the door was open.
Someone may already be trespassing.
Whoa. What? A ruffian?
Perhaps. Keep your guard about you.
This will not do. We won't do at all. Find some type of light if we can, and let's go down and investigate where you heard the scream from.
I believe I left a gas lantern down there, unless somebody moved it.
Yeah, that is correct. It was just in the pop room. So I will move you over to here. Let me just move your tokens back. Hang on, we need to grab Mr. King.
Dr. King is needed, yes.
Why won't it let me zoom? Oh, there it is. I've got it. Don't worry.
Yeah, so if you remember, there's you quite rightly did. You left the gaslight over on one side to this costume storage, but as you come down, Mr. Webber, you notice things are slightly different to what they were before. The first thing that you notice is that all the doors are now shut again, and there seems to be just sort of like, I'll just quickly draw it on for you, just sort of like there. There seems to be like a trunk, an old-fashioned travelling trunk that wasn't there when you came down last time, and you notice that its lids down, and you notice that it's got sort of like thick leather buckles on, and everything's taped down, and you notice on it there's some stickers, some pieces of paper that refers to the great Raspini, and you can see that there's one there just where there is, and I'll just change the color, and then there's a second one next door to it there. So they're sort of like, those were definitely not there last time you were down here. But they're definitely there now, and like I said, the doors are shut. You also find just Mr. Peabody is just to the right of your head, just sort of like here. There is like a gas lantern that is hung up, as if it's there, as if the caretaker might have left it there for when he comes back down.
Who else has got a lantern at the moment?
That's the only one that's here.
All right, so Peabody sort of like looks round, sees the sees the lantern and takes it off the hook and looks for what a taper or were matches available then?
Yeah, so you can lights the
lantern, and he'll turn around to Webber and say, where did you hit the screen, good man?
I heard it down at the end of the hall, to the right.
Right.
All the doors on the left led to costumes, scenery. I didn't find anything worth noting in there, but watch your step. There were all sorts of things being tripped and trapped in the room that I was in. Things were being flung at me. It's almost like somebody didn't want me there.
Do lead on, Weber. We are right behind you.
I'm there. I'm there. Peabody's going to stride down to the door and push open the door, going in, holding the lantern. He's got his cane in one hand. He's still got his hat on, and he's going to hold the lantern up high to try to illuminate as much of the interior as he can.
Yeah. Mr. Weber, can you just do a spot hidden roll for me, please?
Absolutely. Spotting that hidden.
Yeah, so nice success. So you also notice when you get down to here is that the lift, can you see that trap stroke lift to the stage, is actually down. Last night when you were here, you could see it in the you could see it up on the floor, ceiling where the trap was, but now it looks like the trap door above is open, and this is sort of like it's in the down position, so you could stand on it, and via the winching system that is nearby, you could sort of like go up and appear on the stage. Mr. Peabody, those doors open outwards, and only the one on your side can actually open, so it'll go past Mr. Weber towards Dr. King, and because the other door is stopped by the mechanism.
Okay, so he'll open the one door that he can.
Yeah.
Before going in.
Yeah. Okay then. So you're actually going into the prop room now, and this has no natural light going into it. The corridor outside does. So it's not pitch black. It's almost like a dusky feel to it, and just to so you know, or you all know, that all these are cabinets. Okay, so these are cabinets that you can't actually see over. Okay, you can look through the gaps, but that's it. And there seems to be a whole range of props in here. There's everything from like wooden swords and Greek vases or vases. There's oil lamps. There's a fake harp. There's a plaster boulder. You know, there's a candelabra, there's butterfly nets, there's loads of things actually in here. You do also notice that, so you walk in, and so hang on, let me just get the mind map up so I can see. Yeah, so you walk in. So Mr. Weber and Mr. King, what's your plan of action?
I'm going to try to hold the lantern up as high as I can to try to illuminate as much of it.
Yeah, cool.
Weber's going to step onto the trap lift and look up, and if nothing happens, then I'll follow.
Yeah, so you stand on it and look up, and the trapdoor is definitely open, and you can see right the way up into the auditorium. There seems to be no light coming from there. There's no sound coming from up there at all. And then so you sort of like hop off and into the room, into the prop room, following Mr. Peabody.
Mr. Peabody's going to go in, and as soon as he's in, he's sort of like he's going to be stopped, and he's just going to be listening.
Okay.
To see whether or not he can hear anything.
So,
particularly a muffled scream.
Dr. King is going to wait for Webber to finish examining the trap lift thing, and then once he's done that, he's gonna step quite up close behind and follow on.
Okay. Yeah. So you as you go in, the room seems quite dark, and you sort of like listen carefully. Would you like to do a listen roll for me?
Is that for anybody?
Just for Mr. Peabody at the moment. Yeah, you can't hear anything. That he was just having his turn, and then you guys have come in now. So
Sorry, I got confused.
Willard's going to turn around and say, "Are you sure it was this room? I can't hear a thing."
It was at the back of this room. It's really quite a long room. These cabinets make it look really small and boxy from here, but yeah, we gotta keep progressing forward. Watch your feet.
At the far end, is it?
At the far end.
Oh, right. Would have been useful to know that. Right, far end then.
I lean back to Dr. King and make sure to check any cabinets while we're pushing forward. It's anything that could hide a person. And I do the same as well.
Oh yes, of course. And Dr. King will advance, but slowly because he's going down and opening every single cabinet that he can see.
Right. Okay then. So let me just move every body back a bit, and then we'll play out. So Mr. Peabody, you get to this part, and all of a sudden something flies down from in front of you. Can you make your sanity roll for me, please?
Oh, where's that? Oh, that's it.
Nice.
Yeah, so you sort
with
of...
its cane as it comes down, he's sort of like waxing.
You sort of like, good lord, as this what appears to be a bat flies down to you. You sort of like whack it, and you find that it's just sort of like swinging there, and you suddenly notice that your foot has tagged onto some kind of tripwire. Aaron, Mr. Webber, that sort of like reminds you, and it's quite strange because when you left last night, the bat was still swinging.
It seems somebody's playing games.
There's new cabinets down here in the hall that we came in through. They weren't here last night. Somebody's been down here.
Which cabinets?
The ones that were in the hall when we first came in. The ones with stickers of Great Raspini.
I mean, it is his last night. It would seem strange that he would be packing up now, before the show's finished.
Yes, you would have thought he'd be packing first thing in the morning after the show.
Are they big enough to get a young girl in?
You saw the chest, Mr. Peabody, as you came down. So you would, I mean, if somebody was crouched down or folded up, quite possibly, although it would be a rather uncomfortable journey if they were.
Why would he have his luggage packed already?
Unless it's not him. Could be that caretaker. He could already be here. You never know. The door was unlocked. That doesn't seem right to me.
The caretaker's packing his luggage.
It's possible. He was here last night.
I mean, I would have thought a magician, if that really is what he is, would want to pack his own luggage, considering he might have the secrets of his illusions and tricks in there.
Gentlemen, we only have one lantern at the moment. I think it's best that we press on and see whether or not we can find any signs of roads. And then, if needs be, we can come back and examine these crates further.
Sounds like a good idea. Do lead on, Mr. Peabody.
Agreed.
Let's. So Peabody's going to carry on.
Yeah, and Mr. Webber follows you. Dr. King's a little bit further behind because he's going around checking in all the cabinets, which is taking him slightly longer to keep up. So this is all sort of like cabinets around here. You can get through this hole, Mr. Peabody, if wished.
Yes, he will go. He will go round and through.
Okay,
and you hear him say, "King."
Yeah.
The one's big enough to get a person in.
Hang on. Before that actually happens, could you make a sanity roll for me, please? Yeah. As you pass by this, something sort of like comes out of one of the cabinets and just sort of like flops onto you, and you let out a stifle scream, and you it appears to be a skeleton.
He'll actually fall over backwards as it comes on, keeping hold of the lantern, flailing with his cane as he goes over, probably whacking Webber on the leg with it.
Yeah, just make a dex roll for me. Yeah, you sort of like stumble back, but you manage to keep hold of the lantern and in the upright position. But you lose 1 point of sanity, and you suddenly realise that this skeleton is probably not a real one. It seems to be made out of some kind of paper mache. Mr. Webber, you recognise this from last night when you were actually down here.
I'll walk up and pull a skeleton off him. Say, you know what? I best lead on this last bit. There's one more thing that jumps out at us. I think if they really set everything up the same.
And you knew about these things?
That's why I said watch your feet.
Oh, you'll probably tell us tomorrow over coffee, like the muffled scream. Well, better late than never, though.
There's a tripwire for this skeleton too, correct?
Yes, you can see that it's been unhooked now by Mr. Peabody's legs going past it. And it looks
I'll point at it,
yeah,
and say, Peabody, watch your feet.
Well, I think it's important to understand that if we are going to be working together, then the sharing of information should be instantaneous and mutual.
Agreed. But I didn't think somebody would really set up these little traps again.
Well, best leave the thinking to me then.
Guess so. I want to try and push my way ahead regardless, and go for where I recall the third thing that launched out the white.
So two things. It was about here that you heard the muffled scream last night. That's where you were, but as you go past that point, you don't hear anything, and it's just round the corner here that there's that ghostly white sheet. That again sort of like blows off, but actually doesn't sort of like it doesn't scare you. You don't need to make a sanity roll this time because you're completely and utterly prepared for it.
I throw it on the floor.
Yeah.
I'm hoping by now Dr. King has sort of made it past the bat on the string and maybe towards the skeleton that's on the floor.
Yeah, if you're going around, so you're sort of like going around opening all the cupboards. There's various stuff in there to do with props from the theatre, and you just sort of like spend your time sort of like rifling through them.
Well, yeah, so he's just opening the cabinets, and as he goes through, he's only going to be opening the cabinets that he thinks that is big enough to hold a person, sort of like not all crumpled up in in the fetal position, but sort of like with reasonable comfort. So big, sort of like trunks or full standing cabinets.
Right,
So
just like what, like they were stood up in it, or
yeah, stood up or sat down in it. So sort of like table sort of sized cabinets, whether they're.
Okay then.
So he's going to, as he goes, he's realizing he's falling behind, so he's opening less of the cabinets, focusing on the main ones until he gets to the skeleton. Or he's going to stop and look at it and decide that's not anatomically correct at all.
Okay then. So while Dr. King's doing that, Mr. Webber, Mr. Peabody, you will still be further ahead. So I'm just going to move everybody sort of like round a bit. So this cabinet here is the cabinet that you found the dress on, the snag of the dress that I think you actually have, Mr. Webber. Just here is where you saw the oily footprints, but you actually notice that when you get to that part, they're no longer there. It looks like somebody's almost like made a real. Just roll, Mr. Webber, roll a spot hidden for me.
Can do. Can do.
Just
yeah.
Fine.
So it looks as if they've been freshly mopped. You can still see traces of the grease. But it seems to have been spread over a larger surface, but the actual tracks are no longer sort of present at all. And then I presume, are you moving off to the sarcophagus? Oh, sorry, did you want to say something?
I just want to make sure that I'm sharing all of this out loud with the rest of the group.
Yeah.
I'm not just keeping this to myself.
And your voices are sort of like echoing round this prop room because it's underground and it's quite acoustically bare, so it's sort of like you hear your cells echoing backwards and forwards, and then you move up to this, and you hear Mr. Dr. King talking about the skeleton, about it not being anatomically correct, and
missing a couple of ribs on this side, and
Mr.
nowhere near right size, and that's shoulder blade off. That's atrocious.
So, Mr. Webber, Mr. Webber, you're now in front of the sarcophagus.
The stuff on the floor. Can we actually still see where it's been spread around?
Mr. Webber can probably point it out what it was, but there's nothing in relation to footprints anymore there now. If anything, Mr. Webber, it looks like things have been tidied up almost and reset. And you only can see the oil because you saw it last night, and you can see that it literally looks like somebody's sort of like taken a wet mop to it and either tried to disguise it or tried to sort of like move it away, but they, with no detergent, they've literally just spread it rather than
Peabody's going to say, Webber, by chance, do you have a handkerchief with you?
A handkerchief? I don't think so. I bend down and with two fingers, I just kind of scrape up some of the residue on my fingers so I can get a better look at it.
Yeah.
In the lantern. And does it look any different getting that close light on? Does it feel...
Yeah, it definitely feels like some kind of oil.
Let me see.
I hold my fingers up to him so he can see more clearly.
Peabody's going to sort of like lean in, have a look, and then have a sniff of it to see whether or not he can detect any odor. He does have a skill in chemistry, so if it's
So roll your
recognized from his.
You can roll your chemistry roll, but you're going to have a hard success. Oh, extreme success. That's absolutely fine. Yeah, it is. It's some kind of oil. It's definitely not. It's almost like machine oil.
It's a heavier oil than, say, lantern oil or anything like that.
It's definitely, you think it's probably used to lubricate machines or gears or something like that.
I recognise this. It's very much like the the oil that we used to use on the the cannons and the tow lines.
Huh. That's a strange thing to have on your shoes.
It's an even stranger thing to be here in a theatre. You wouldn't expect that sort of grade of oil here.
Well, I think the most strange thing is that it looked like it was only in this area between, and he points to the cabinet behind him, and the sarcophagus.
Is there a tin nearby? Do you think someone could have knocked it and spilt it off the shelf? King says, stooping down, he's going to start looking to see if he can see something a tin of oil that has dropped off the shelf and burst open.
Can I suggest, gentlemen, that we have a bit of quiet and all listen to see whether or not we can hear any more screaming?
A nod.
Okay, yeah, roll spot hidden rolls.
Spot hidden or listen?
Oh, listen, sorry, listen.
Oh.
This is to all of us?
Yeah, you all sat there listening.
Oh, there we go. Oh.
Yeah, so Mr. Webber, you're the best at listening, and you listen quite intensely, but you can't hear anything at all. You notice that Mr. King's looking around for like a bit of a carton or a container, full of oil. But Mr. Webber, you know that the amount that you saw definitely wasn't a spillage. It was more sort of like, you know it was some kind of footprints. So rather than somebody tipping a canister over.
I share that information after a few moments of silence and losing patience with trying to hear something.
Yeah.
Oh well, in that case, King says as he stands, straightens up after stooping on the ground for a little bit. You could have said earlier, Webber, instead of making me make a tomfoolery of myself.
And there was two sets of footprints, did you say?
One small and one large.
Well, logic would dictate that that if they were heading to the sarcophagus, then they must be inside.
That's what I thought. I make my way over, and whereas when I opened it the first time, it was with much fear. This time, I just go for it. I open the sarcophagus, both hands, to get it open as swiftly as possible.
Yeah, and it sort of like opens round that way. So, and as before, you open it, and there's actually a completely empty sarcophagus.
Is there a false back or?
Peabody will lift up his cane and he'll sort of like whack the. He'll move. Well, he won't move in. He'll say, "Stand aside, Webber."
Stand aside.
And he'll sort of like poke the back of it with his cane.
It just feels like the back. It's not although it's made to look like a sarcophagus. It seems to be built out of some kind of wood. It's not like a proper stone sarcophagus from Egypt. It's made more out of wood.
Putting the lantern on whatever this is. What is it? Sort of
it's
like
just like a cabinet. Yeah.
Cabinet. Peabody will sort of like rest his cane up and on the side of it, and he'll say, "No, nothing else for it. We're going to have to move it."
All right. I move forward to try and move it away from the wall.
Peabody will sort of like grab hold of one side as well. And after 3.
Okay, yeah. So can you roll me some
2.
some strength checks, please?
Absolutely.
3.
Yeah, so Aaron, you managed to move it somewhat. Mr. Peabody is not actually being much help at all. He's sort of like not pushing in the
heavier than it looks, this.
direction. But what you do notice is that you push it, and with one firm push, Mr. Webber, you notice that the sarcophagus sort of like falls over onto its side. You also hear at that point a faint click, and as it sort of like falls to the side and then onto its front, you notice that there's a faint click and the back sort of like goes like that. It looks as if the back was false, or there was maybe a catch inside somewhere, but as this wooden thing sort of like clatters to the floor, you notice behind it is like a slight tunnel. It seems to be carved out of soil from the ground for the first sort of like 5 foot or so, but after that it seems to be more like a proper stone corridor. It has flagstones on the base, and it has stone up on the side, and there's a nice arch on it as well. It is a bit musty, and you sort of like have a look down it, and there's almost like there's 2 things that you notice straight away. The first thing that you notice is that there's some rather unfamiliar smells coming up from the corridor beyond. You roll education roll.
Is this for everyone or just?
Yeah, you're Mr. King, Dr. King. You're a little bit too far back to get this. Yeah, so Mr. Peabody, you sense it, the first thing, and you recognise it as it's probably, you smelt this before. There was a time when your next door neighbour had issues with the sewers in Victorian London, and it was backing up, and you smelt something very familiar. It sounds like it's obviously going down into the sewer system. And the other thing is, Mr. Peabody and Mr. Webber, do your listen roll for me.
Nice.
One of the first things that Peabody wants to do as well is to, as he picks up the lantern and we're sort of like holding it to see what we're seeing at the moment, he does want to look down to see whether or not there's any more footprints.
Yeah, okay then. So
that have been cleaned up.
The first thing that you notice with your listen roll is that as you sort of like get towards it and sort of like shine your lantern down it, and it sort of like lights up a radius of light, you hear a whole load of like scuttering and scurrying around, and you can almost like see a few rats just sort of like quickly scamper away out of the light and round the corner.
Perhaps it's time to get the constabulary now.
We've come this far, Peabody. We got it in us to look in here. This does not seem to be boding well for whoever might be.
And we were requested specifically not to inform the relevant authorities. We were to keep it as quiet as possible.
I appreciate that, King, but do you realise how much this coat cost? It's not a coat that you can go down into a tunnel in. It's a coat for the gentry.
Where's your moral core? Where there could be a girl in there tied up and in danger. It's not a matter of cost. It's a matter of cost between life and a coat.
I get your point, King. I get your point. My God. 6 silver. 6 silver pennies.
I think we should be moving on and be careful of the rats. They do carry all sorts of lovely contagious diseases.
Is there any? Can we see any footprints?
No, it's just like I said, it's stone flags. So there's no oil or anything down here at all. It's just sort of like normal stone paving slabs.
Well,
there's a slight gap when it's more earthy, but then it looks like it as if this tunnel didn't quite back onto this wall, but the wall's been opened up more and to allow access into the tunnel.
Lead on, Webber. After all, they do have half a day head start on us now.
Yeah, and as you speak, Mr. Peabody, you notice that your voice sort of like echoes down the tunnel, and it's almost like it's that wonderful echoey sound that happens when you're going underground. So, so is Mr. Webber going first, then Mr. Peabody, and then Dr. King? Is that the idea?
I'm more than happy to bring up the rear, chaps. Let's be moving on.
Indeed.
Have you had any combat experience, King?
Apart from the odd scrape when I was a lad, I've not had the opportunity. No.
Well, best go second with your bag, just in case. Just in case she needs help. Don't want to be pushing past me. Maybe push me into the wall, and God knows what I get on my coat. You go second, good man. I'll bring up the rear.
Oh, if you insist.
Take this lantern.
It's very kind, good sir. And thank you. King says as he reaches for the lantern and sort of like squeezes past, turns sideways and walks like a crab for a moment to get past Peabody so that he's in the middle.
Right. So Peabody, you're not carrying the lantern, is that what?
Yeah. So I've handed that off to.
I've got that.
To King.
Okay.
So King's got the lantern held aloft in his right hand, so that the lantern's sort of his head height. I don't know if he's taller or shorter than Webber, but
I'm a 65.
And then in his left hand, so probably about the same sort of size then. And then in his left hand, he's got his doctor's bag, held firmly.
Okay, so Mr. Webber, you're heading straight down the corridor. Is that the idea?
Yes, getting my knuckle dusters equipped just in case I need to bash somebody in the face.
Yes.
Kidnap.
So the tunnel goes quite ahead, and then it almost like turns, like I said before, and that's where you saw the rats sort of like scurrying along.
I'll wait for the rest of my group and then make my way down.
Oh, King's on the hot of Webber's heels. He's like half a pace behind him the whole way.
And when you look back, Peabody's sort of like bringing up the rear, but he's sort of like moving as if to not have to touch any of the sides, and occasionally he uses his cane to knock down a cobweb before moving past it.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting things about this, is that the actual tunnel, it doesn't look like it's been left, if that makes sense. So there's no sort of like dirt or dust or cobwebs or anything like that down here. It's not sort of like stretched across. It looks as if it's been frequented quite often as you head down. So Mr. Webber used to sort of like lead the way with the other two behind you, and you comes to the turn of the corridor. Mr. Webber, can you make for me a stealth roll?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you get to the corner and you're first, and as you look around the corner, the light from the lantern sort of like lights up a bit of the corridor, and as you look around, it almost like looks as if the floor is moving, and you suddenly realize for the next 20 or 30 foot of the corridor, it seems to be going slightly on an incline up to you or a decline downwards, but the floor is almost like a furry mass, and it just seems to be a whole load of rats interacting with each other, and you can see for a certain amount of distance that it's just rats, and there seems to be, you can't even see the floor at all.
Well, rats.
Rats, you say?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of rats around the corner. If you're afraid of them,
Well, I'm not afraid of them, but they are a damn sight inconvenient.
I'll step out and just kind of look at the massive moving creatures.
So you sort of like step back around the corridor, and you suddenly notice that the mass of rats is not sort of like stationary in the corridor at all. The sound of voices is almost like activated them, and they seem to be splitting up in two directions. So there's a huge horde of them that are now coming up the corridor, and as you look round, Mr. Webber, you can see them massing up. They seem to be quite big rats, and they seem to be almost like jet black apart from the tail, and they're almost like amassing like a horde, and they seem to be coming up towards you. What would you like to do, Mr. Webber?
Inform the group, rats are coming our way, guys, and start backing up. Keep my arms out to make sure everybody else backs up too.
Yeah, you're going to have to, if you carry on backing up at this speed, the rats will catch you up. They are moving they're moving as if they've got a purpose now.
That's alarming. I don't like that they have a purpose or motive. I'm gonna like push with my arms to try and get everybody.
They're now coming around the corner.
And I'll everybody run! Stop dallying.
Yeah. So Webber, sort of like, are you turning round and running?
Yes, but I'm not trying to I'm trying to get them to go first so that I'm the last one to leave.
Right.
Yeah, well,
what are you running from?
Yeah, you sort of like turn round and say run, and Dr. King engages you with conversation. You've got a choice, Mr. Webber. You either stop and have the conversation, or you push past him and carry on down the tunnel, back to the sarcophagus. What would you like to do?
Would there be the possibility of a third option of grabbing his arm and just kind of yanking him as I run?
Yeah, you can do that by all means.
Should I roll something for that?
So if you roll your brawl skill.
I'm sorry for the roughness.
And what?
Sorry.
What? So you sort of like try to tug Dr. King with you as you go by, and Dr. King sort of like gets turned round, but he almost like resists your pull and pulls his arm away from you. Mr. Peabody, you see this happening. Mr. Webber, you're now past Mr. King. Mr. Peabody, what would you like to do?
Peabody turns on his heels and runs.
Okay then. Dr. King sort of like gets turned round. So Dr. King's now facing up towards the sarcophagus, and as Mr. Webber tries to pull you along, and you sort of like resist, and he doesn't pull you, and you can see now at Mr. King that you can see Mr. Peabody and Mr. Webber now running back towards the corridor entrance, the tunnel entrance, and you just sort of like suddenly think, you know, what's going on here, when all of a sudden you then feel brushing against your legs a whole load of furry objects. Can you make a sanity roll for me, please?
Oh, no.
Yeah, and you quickly look down and you find that there's quite a number of these big black rats. You're not sort of like screaming or anything like that, but you do notice that several of them are sort of like climbing up your trouser legs, and some of them are bypassing you and carrying on up.
King, not wanting to put either the lantern or the his bag down, will try and sort of like flick the bag gently towards his leg to make sure that they don't, to try and knock them off.
Yeah, well, there's quite a number of them now, and they're sort of like climbing up one of your legs. So you sort of like try to hit them with your bag. Make a brawl roll for me.
It's under fighting, if that helps.
Ah, fighting. There we go. Fighting brawl. I was looking for brawl and I couldn't see it.
Yeah, you try to knock one of these rats off with your bag, but the rat's far too quick, and on your other leg you suddenly get this stinging sensation as you feel one of the rodents sort of like sink their teeth into you, and you take 1 point of damage from the bite. So Mr. Webber and Mr. Peabody, due to you running now, you are actually at the sarcophagus entrance exit, and as you look back you can see almost like Dr. King sort of like trying to whack his bag at these rats, and the rats are almost like congregating round him. They don't seem to be continuing up through the tunnel, and you notice that they started to clamber up his legs, etc. So let's just get some initiatives in. So your initiative is via your dex.
Okay. Is it the dex roll?
No, so it's just your dexterity that it goes on.
All right. So
I think.
So Peabody's is 60.
Yeah. So I put the tracker up.
All right. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, do we just enter it in?
Yeah. Let me just check. Yeah. Dexterity highest to lowest. Cool. Yeah. So Peabody, you go first.
Okay. So get into the get into the entrance. He looks around and sees King still down in the corridor. He shouts, "King, good lord, quickly!"
Yeah, cool. Sorry. Yeah.
And then he sort of like he starts coughing. He sort of
Yeah. Okay. Dr. King, you are up next.
So with that, and having failed to try and get them off, Dr. King is seeing that they're all swarming around him. He's going to try and sort of like take a long step over them, and he's going to start running down the corridor.
Okay. Can you please make for me a? I need to be careful here because the skill that I originally put down is not actually in the game. So I'm just quickly finding one that relates to it. We will go for. I think we're going to just for the sake of argument. I think we're going to go. No,
operate heavy machinery.
No, roll your dex. Roll your dexterity. Yeah, so as you start sort of like run away and sort of like step over these rats, you actually step on one of them and you hear like that as it squeals, and you sort of like stumble and sort of like fall down onto the floor. And could you make 2 more dex rolls for me, please? Yeah, you keep hold of the lantern, but you drop your bag. And now it's Mr. Webber's go. So Mr. Webber, you see Mr. King try to start running back towards the thing, and he sort of like steps on a rat and loses his footing and lands down. He's still holding up the lantern, but his bag has been lost or is cast aside from him. What would you like to do, Mr. Webber?
It's a very good question. So conflicted, but seeing a friend go down, would I be able to make it to him and grab his hand to pull him up in my turn, or would that be two turns?
You'll be able to get to him and grab him before it'll be my turn.
That's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so you sort of like run down. He's probably not... well, actually, he's probably waving his arms about quite viciously at the moment, because as you run down... Mr. Webber, you notice that these rats have started to sort of like get onto him. You know, well, beforehand they were just on his legs. They're now actually getting onto it. Just roll your brawl skill.
Before I roll that, can I add? I want to make a lot of noise. I guess I'm gonna let out an American just roar, I guess. Yeah. Just noise for the sake of being loud.
Yeah, so you sort of like charge and let out a battle cry as you go. So I go, "Arr!" Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so despite Mr. King, Dr. King's arms going all over the place, you actually do manage to grab hold of the one that doesn't have the bag in, and so at your next action you will have it. This is now. Oh, where's me? I just need to roll to hit roll. Yeah, the thing gets the rats. Sorry, get a 2 on their thing. So you feel another one, Dr. King, sort of like sinks their teeth into your.
I say,
a random part of your body, and does another point of damage. Can you see my rolls, guys? You should be
able to now. Yeah.
That's cool.
They're not like ours. They're not good as like ours. Yours just rolling 1d100.
Yeah, exactly. I have to do it the old-fashioned way. Okay. Yeah. So, Mr. Peabody, it's back to you.
Mr. Peabody is now on the other side. Last time he started to cough. This cough is getting worse and worse, and even the people down the corridor can now hear him coughing away in the room.
Okay, what are you trying to achieve something with the coughing?
No.
Okay, so you're just coughing. Yeah. Okay, then that's cool. Okay, then, Mr. King, you are next.
So he's going to try and stand up, I'm assuming, with Mr. Webber's help.
Yeah, so roll your dex roll. Yeah, you managed to sort of like get up, and a couple of the rats sort of like dislodge it. But Mr. Webber, you can actually see there's quite a few more rats still on Dr. King, and it's your turn, Mr. Webber.
Sorry, can I just say that is there an option to do a free action like talking?
No. Oh, you can talk if you wish. Yeah,
that's what I meant. So Dr. King is going to shout to Webber, Webber, my bag.
Okay, yeah, Mr. Webber, what would you like to do? You can get his bag if you wish. You can see it is just off to one side.
Would I be able to grab it and run, or would I just be going over to grab it?
You can probably grab it, and then you'll have your next. You'll have to wait till next time to actually start running out.
Okay, and would either King or would both King and I be able to make it to the exit in one turn's worth of running?
Yeah, quite easily. Yeah.
A final question. If I went for the action of grabbing King by the shoulder and just pulling him along, would I be able to make much progress? Would we both be able to make it to the door, or is this more of happening as he's standing up right now with his dexterity roll?
Yeah,
and then
he sort of like stood up, and as he stood up, so you've let go of him now because you sort of like helped him up, and he says, Weber, get my bag.
I will get his bag then, and if I can, I'd like to get a hold on him again so that we're on next turn we're going to be moving.
Yeah, okay. So you sort of like go away from him and grab the bag, and then Dr. King, some of the rats that are still on you, they have another nibble.
I'm going to start kicking these rats.
Yeah, they one of them manages to get through your clothing, and you take 2 points of damage as it sinks its teeth into you. And Peabody, it's your go.
Yeah, Peabody is still in the room, coughing away.
Yeah, okay then. And then it's Dr. King's go. What would you like to do?
At this point, seeing that Weber's got my bag, he's going to say, "Time to go," and he's going to start running up the.
Okay, so you sort of like run up the corridor, heading to the room with some of these rats sort of like still on you, and I presume, Aaron, you're Mr. Weber, you're then going to go to the room and follow Mr. King out with the bag?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay then. So I get another attack with the rats. If I well, and come on, dice roll that. Oh, there it is. That one. Yeah, 48. That hits, or one of them hits. Oh, hang on, that's not the damage. Oh yeah, and you take 3 points of damage as another rat sinks its teeth into you, and then all of you find yourselves out in this room. So Dr. King is stood there holding the lantern, and you can see that he's got a couple, maybe 3 rats still attached to him, and sort of like, and you can see that there's various bits of blood where these rats have attached on, and then doing what rats can do. They've obviously locked their jaws, so they're actually locked on. So even if it's to your arm, if you held it up like that, the rat's literally locked its jaw to. And so Mr. Weber, you have the bag, and Dr. King, you're stood there with a few rats on you and a lantern, and Mr. Peabody, you're coughing, and it's your turn, Mr. Peabody.
Yeah, so when they come in, Peabody's sort of like on his knees now, and he's coughing away, and he's managed to get his handkerchief on his over his mouth, but that is all he's doing. It's sort of like a real sort of like bad cough.
Yeah. Okay then. So, Dr. King, what would you like to?
So Dr. King will say to Weber, he'll say, "Weber, open my bag, pull out the bottle with the marking AB on it, and give it to Peabody. Put it on his handkerchief." As he's going to then put the lantern down, and he's going to try and he wants to try and break the necks of the rats so that they release their jaws so that they can come off.
Right. So the first thing you tell Weber to get a bottle out of the with AB on. What's this bottle?
So this bottle has the tonic that it's a bottle, and it's a homemade tonic on the inside, like a liquid tonic that his grandfather had sort of made and perfected to help with coughing. So it's kind of like you would put it onto a handkerchief and then sort of like inhale it, and it's kind of like a vapor type thing to ease. It's meant to ease the passages in the throat and soothe them.
I can see that you've put on your gear and possession. It just says medical bag.
Oh, okay. Do you want me? Okay, no, that's
but
fine.
It doesn't sort of like state.
If I can't do that, that's fine.
Okay, so anyway, you can still say it. I don't mind you saying it. It's just that on your couch sheet it just says medical bag. So
yeah,
because then it's almost like a portable hole. You know,
yeah, no, I understand.
Did you want? You need to roll a brawl skill if you wish to grab one of these rats. Yeah, you sort of like grab hold of it, but you can't actually pull it off at all. Yeah, Mr. Weber.
I look at the doctor and say, we need to close this off so they don't all flow through, as I toss the bag towards him and move towards closing sarcophagus.
There's no rats coming through here. They seem to have gone back the other way. There's just like 3 rats attached to Dr. King at the moment.
It appears I was wrong. I'm going to try and knock the rats off.
Yeah, okay, then make a brawl roll.
Since I don't know how to look through a medical bag.
Yeah, so you give this one of the rats a hearty knock on it. Can you do some damage for it?
Yes, and I would be using my fist that doesn't have the knuckle dusters.
Yeah, okay, then. So just,
I don't want to hurt my friend.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 points of damage is enough to sort of like knock one of these rats off, and it just sort of like falls to the ground quite stunned as one of them who sort of like falls back to the ground. Okay, rat's turn. 85 actually misses. And now it's Mr. Peabody. Are you just still?
Yeah, in between these feats of coughing, it looks almost like he's trying to get something from his coat pocket.
Okay.
But he tries to get it. The coughing takes over him again, and you can actually see. If they look around, you can actually see sort of like speckles of blood on the handkerchief that he's holding to his mouth.
Yeah. Okay then. Dr. King, you're next.
Dr. King is going to try and get one of these rats off again. He's desperate now.
Yeah. Roll your brawl roll. Yeah. Do some damage. Yeah.
That one, I think.
Yeah, and you just sort of like knock it, and sort of like another one falls off, and you notice that the last one's just sort of like sees that everybody, the other rats are heading off, and it obviously decides to work as a pack. And it just sort of like drops off, and Mr. Weber, you see it. You could probably get a swipe at it, Mr. Weber, if you wish to, as it ran past you.
Oh, yes, definitely. I will go ahead and roll.
Yeah, so you managed to kick it a bit, and as it sort of like goes past you, and you sort of like kick it, and it sort of like goes off into the down into the tunnel, and it's sort of like heads back off again.
I'll make my way over to if we're out of combat, actually, I should say.
Yeah, sorry, yes, you are out of combat now at this moment, and it's past, so that seems to be a suitable time to take our first break. So we will be back, guys, in about 10 minutes or sooner. Once we've grabbed a drink and visited the bathroom, we will be back. So we'll see you all in 10. and go to there. Hello, we are back. We are back and ready for action. So, Dr. King is bleeding from various wounds. Mr. Peabody is still bent over double, coughing. And Mr. Webber, you have dispatched the final rat, kicking it down the corridor, and you have Mr. King's bag in your offhand, so to speak. Okay then, yeah. What would you like to do, people?
I want to pass off the medical bag immediately to Dr. King, and kind of as I'm passing it off, I'm pushing it into him and pushing him out of the way so I can go help Peabody get whatever he was trying to grab out of his pocket. And failing that, or if there's nothing there, I'll just help him stand up.
Oh, cool. So, Mr. Peabody, you can tell Mr. Webber what he finds.
Yeah, so you see him trying to get something from his coat pocket. You reach into it for him, and inside a small silver engraved flask.
Pull it out and put it in his hands and pat him on the back and try and get him to stop coughing, and not prevent him from drinking whatever medicine he has, of course. I'm not patting him that
Peabody, between these fits of coffee, manages to get it unstopped and takes a swig off it. And after a few minutes, the coughing does die down until he's well enough to stand up and continue.
Okay, so is the idea to head back down the corridor, the tunnel?
I was hoping the doctor might handle his wounds over there.
I think won't fire distract them?
You'd think. It seemed to attract them to our doctor.
Has got his gone out.
Yeah, Zoom's just my
Roll 20.
No, not even Roll20. Google's just gone. So bear with.
Could we make a flaming brand?
You look, Mr. Webber, from where you're looking now. The corridor appears to be empty. It looks like wherever the rats went, they went in a different direction.
To clarify, would it be hypothesizing that they went back to where they were when we first disturbed them, or further down the hall, as if they were going in that direction, didn't come back?
They definitely haven't come back. I mean, they might still be hiding around the corner. You're not too sure from your position at the moment.
They would do that too.
Best let me lead, Webber. Best let me lead. Best put forward. I'll go first. If there's any trouble, you can rest assured that I'll take care of it. Let's go. And he'll pick up his cane and he'll start heading.
Yeah. Okay then. You pick up your cane and start to march purposefully down the tunnel. Is that the...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
King is going to reluctantly sort of like follow on behind, clutching his medical bag close to his chest this time.
Okay, who's carrying the lantern now?
I thought, who do you call it, had it?
King still has it unless anybody else wants to hold on to it.
So King sort of like has the lantern in one hand, and then he's sort of like hugging his medical bag with the other one. So Mr. Peabody, you're striding out first, and then is Webber going next? Is that the plan?
Yeah, Webber will make his way, making sure to if rats jump out, I'm gonna kick ever living tar out of them.
Yeah. Okay, so Mr. Peabody, what are you doing?
So the corridor it's first dirt and then it goes back to stone, and then there's a turning.
Yeah, so as you sort of like march purposefully down the corridor, you can see the turn coming up, and everybody is sort of like marching behind you.
So he'll go round the turning.
Okay, could you make for me a stealth check? Yeah, you're making. You're not sort of like trying to be stealthy at all. You're just sort of like marching down. You turn around the corridor, the end of the tunnel. You can see that the corridor goes off and sort of like slopes down. It seems to be on a downward slope, and it's only when the rest of your party come behind you at the top of the decline that you can sort of like see down, and it carries on going down as far as the torch, the lantern, allows you to see.
How much of a decline is it? Is it sort of like,
It's quite gentle, but
right.
if you put something on it, it would roll.
Right. Okay, so using his cane for support as he goes down, Peabody will continue down there, striding out purposefully.
Yeah, so you sort of like go striding out, and sort of like just marching down this tunnel that you have no idea where it goes to or anything, and you're just sort of like walking as if you're out for a Sunday morning walk. As you just sort of like go down, with everybody sort of like hurrying after you as you march down this corridor. Yeah, okay then. So you sort of like carry on down, and then you carry on down until it looks it actually goes down, and then it comes to what appears to be it ends in a curtain, and there seems to be a curtain with big curtain hooks over like a bar.
Is there any way for us to tell sort of like how far from the theatre we've gone and how far down?
In what? Say again, sorry?
I could hear clicking. It's okay.
Yeah, I heard it for a while. Tell me, how far in feet?
Yeah, how far away? I mean, if we were, could we be underneath the building next door, or 2 buildings across, or?
You're not too sure, because you haven't been taking notice of that. You've just been sort of like striding out. You figure you're more underground than the original cellar, and you could actually. You don't think you're underneath the theatre anymore, but. You know, your main purpose has been going down this corridor rather than sort of like taking into account what's around you or anything like that. So you've literally then just come up against this heavy velvet curtain that is hanging in front of you.
Okay, so putting his cane through the side of it, he will attempt to pull it to one, or use his cane to move it to one side.
Yeah, so you just sort of like, with gay abandon, sort of like push your K to one side and fling open the curtain. And it seems to be in a room. There's several wooden crates in this room. And on the west wall, there's a large, quite filthy looking bed. It's quite big, this bed, and you also notice that at the far end of the room there's a door. It looks quite rusted, and it looks like it's made out of iron. I'm just going to put you onto the map, so just bear with.
Quick question, apart from our light, was there any other light within the...
No, not at all. So you should be able to see part of the map now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just let me center it. Where did we come in? For this bit here?
Yeah, that's where you came in, yeah.
Okay. So Peabody will step into the room.
Yeah, let's...
Following.
Is somebody's mic giving off feedback? I can hear a lot of shushing.
I'll try muting myself, see it's me.
No. Put it back on again.
That noise.
That noise.
Sorry, that's me.
Oh, right.
That's my chair. That's my
No.
moving on my chair. That's all. Sorry.
No, it's not a chair moving. It sounds as if there's a... Mr. Pickles, are you still muted?
No.
I was then.
No, it's not coming from my... Longshanks, do you...
No, mute your mic.
Oh.
Right.
Stop.
Yeah. So that's all right. Yeah. Okay then. So you can see yourself. You're now in the room. Can you all see yourself down at the?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Cool.
That was a train. If everybody can hear that.
Yeah.
Wonder who'd be living down here.
Whereabouts is the door? Did you say there was a door? Or can we not? Is that on part of the room that we can't? Over there, right? Okay.
It's up here.
Okay. Does it look like the bed's been used? Is it made or?
It's definitely not made, but if you want to have a look at it, you're going to have to get a little bit closer to it.
Is it a single or a double?
It's quite big. It doesn't look like it's a double. It doesn't look like it's big enough to be a double, but it looks like it's too big to be a single.
Peabody will turn round, switching his cane to his right hand. He will grab the lantern off King.
Oh, of course. He
slide into the room, up towards the bed.
Yeah. Okay. So, Mr. King and Mr. Webber, what would you like to do?
Mr. King will most likely follow. Still slightly behind. Oh, excuse me. Still slightly behind everyone there.
Okay. So you're following Mr. Peabody. Mr. Webber, what would you like to do?
Those are crates right next to my token, right?
They are.
I'd like to investigate the crates and their occupants.
Yeah. Okay. Then that's absolutely cool. Yeah. So Peabody, can you roll me a spot hidden roll? Yeah, this
particularly looking for any sign of Rose.
Yeah, no, this bed has not been slept in by Rose because there's quite a big dint in it, and just by looking at it, you figure that I want to say person, but it's more probably a bigger option is to say thing, because you figure whatever's been sleeping in this bed is about 8 foot tall.
So it's definitely nobody who we've met.
No, not at all. You also notice with your successful spot hidden, there's what appears to be like a dirty plate and a cup, sort of like shoved underneath it, and underneath the bed, and there's also seems to be some kind of almost like a metal cylinder. Mr. Webber, these crates seem to be sealed. Would you like to open one?
If I may.
Yeah, so are you using anything in particular to open it, or are you just going to try to do it with your sheer brawl?
Sheer brawl.
Okay, so make a strength check for me then. Yeah, and you manage to sort of like pull one bit up of the wood, and it sort of like snaps before sort of like opening completely, and you notice that it is full of something. Just roll your do you? I'm trying to remember what skills your character has.
I'm good at fighting, fast talk law, library use, listen, psychology, science, cryptography, and spot hidden.
Is your science
And
specialized?
credit.
Is your science specialized into cryptography?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay then. So can you roll for me an education roll, then, please?
Absolutely. Education.
Yeah. You look inside, and you think this is packed full of dynamite sticks. And when I say packed full, I mean packed full. And there's probably near on 50 to 80 sticks of dynamite in each of these crates. Okay.
I just let out an audible whoa.
King will turn around and say, "What's whoa?" I'm not sure I've heard this word. Is it? I assume it's some sort of American colloquialism for something important.
Yeah, I ain't never seen TNT before, but I think we got some sticks right here. A lot of heavy armor.
Peabody wants to see whether or not he can use his cane to get what's underneath this bed, not the plate, but the other thing. What did you say the other thing was?
Yeah, it seems to roll. What skills do you have?
I was thinking of maybe a dex roll, or
Do you have any science skills?
I have chemistry.
Yeah, roll that. Yeah, you think it might be something to do with explosives. Roll your education. Unless you want to, no, you can spend luck if. Yeah, you think it's something to do with explosives, but what it actually is, you're not too sure. Unless you want to use your luck to reduce that 73 to 60.
What would that be? Knock 13 off it.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Okay, so reduce your luck by 13, and that gives you a standard success. Yeah, it's a blasting cap. It's used to detonate explosives.
Peabody will say, there's a blasting cap underneath here. Used them when I was with the engineers in the Anglo War. And you've got dynamite, did you say?
I think so. This is what I heard. It looks like. Maybe you might know more.
Isn't that stuff notoriously unstable? Should we not sort of leave here pretty quick in case it spontaneously goes up?
If you're right, then yeah.
Yeah, and as you stand in this room, having quite a big discussion in your loud, harsh voices, you suddenly hear the door at the far side burst open, and what comes in is a rather tall man, for want of a better word. He is indeed like 8 foot tall, and he looks extremely almost like part dying. And could you all make for me sanity rolls, please?
I'm extreme.
You're fine, yeah. Mr. King fails. Yeah, so
My sanity was actually 49 there. It didn't. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
I failed still.
You failed, yeah. So,
Yeah.
Mr. King, you lose 3 points of sanity, and Mr. Peabody, you lose 1 point of sanity. Mr. Webber, you're quite used to this. He sort of like comes around the corner. Does anybody have any mythos skills or occult skills or anything like that? If you do, roll it now.
Not that's any good, but I'll give it a roll anyway.
Don't we all have occult technically?
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and see what I know.
The skeptic in the group.
Yeah, the two people who actually lost sanity, you actually recognize it. It seems to be some kind of zombie. It looks like it's half alive and half dead, and it seems to have nothing in its hands at all. It seems to have no weapons or anything like that. But it does sort of like, as you're busy talking to each other in your loud, rather brash voices, you hear the door bang open, and this beast sort of like comes into the room, and he just sort of like, he comes around the door and he just says to you, he says, "Otto, kill. Otto, kill," as he comes towards you. Okay, let me just, can you stick your dexterities won't change, so there's no need to roll anything. I just need to put mine into the turn order.
It's convenient.
And then there you go. Okay then. So Mr. Peabody, you are up first.
Well, I don't have the turn order. I just have you. Is that right?
What, you can't see yours?
Yeah, I've only got
just got you.
Otto.
It doesn't matter, but I mean, I know
Yeah.
I got 60, and I think somebody had 50 and somebody had 55.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
okay.
Peabody has 60, King has 55, Webber has 50, and then the zombie is the last person. So basically it goes Peabody, King, Webber. And Peabody, so you're up first.
Looking a bit shaken, Peabody sort of like holds his cane out like it could almost be a sword, and he'll say, "Webber!" And that's it.
Oh, right. Okay, then. Dr. King, what would you like to do?
So Dr. King will sort of like take a couple of involuntary steps, sort of like backwards, because he's sort of shocked, and he goes, "It doesn't look too healthy. Don't let it touch you."
Okay. And Webber, what would you like to do?
Presuming that this person's name is Otto, I'm gonna step forward. Would I be able to make it about next to Peabody, maybe a foot ahead, or would that be too far?
You've got your movement. I'm just adjusting the scale because the scale's wrong.
Okay, let me double check my. Oh yeah, my move rate is 7. We do have things. Is that 7 feet?
Yes, 7 feet. So it's actually yeah. There you go.
Just regarding combat, is there? Can you delay actions, anything like that, or is it just?
No, there's no combat. It's just purely you just work on your dex skills.
Cool. Yeah.
And then you just work through it. Yeah. Okay. So Mr. Webber, are you moving?
Yeah, I'm gonna move forward and I'll say, Otto, you better stand down.
Yeah. Cool. And Otto doesn't look like he's standing down at all. If anything, he can only get to here. He sort of like comes lolloping forward, and he just sort of like he's almost like going oh, like that as he sort of like lumbers his way to you. Mr. Peabody, you up?
As he closes, Mr. Peabody takes his cane to one side and tries to whack him across the head.
Yeah, so you need to move up to meet him, yeah?
Yeah, he will. He'll take a step forward as he
Yeah,
comes into
cool.
range.
So
And
yeah, so roll your. Have you got a specific weapon skill to do with your cane?
no.
Just roll unarmed combat then.
If it helps, I actually had the weapon table open because I couldn't find that. It's page 250 of the rule book. Cool. It actually is the brawl for any club.
Is it brawl? Fantastic, thank you. So that's brawl then. Yeah, and you sort of like miss him or altogether as you sort of like you probably just timed it too early
and swung before
you actually met him. Yeah. Dr. King, you're up.
Dr. King is going to stand at the back again and just go. Be careful. He could well be infectious.
Yeah, so you hear from the back Dr. King say again that he could be infectious to you. Mr. Weber, you're up.
I don't believe in infections. I believe in fate. And I'm going to move forward and try and do a I guess my brawling would probably be kind of like boxing, probably. Boxing is about this era.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah.
Go for a nice jab if I can.
Yeah, cool.
Try and clock this guy. I'm just going to roll my... I'm doing it with my knuckle duster hand here because I do want to hurt him. Bam.
Yeah, so Mr. Otto fights. So, sorry, just to let you know about combat. Dexterity leads it, and then when you're fighting, we didn't do this for you, Mr. Peabody, because you missed. So, when somebody hits you, you have a choice. Okay, you can either attack back, and in which case it's simultaneous. So, say for example, if Otto decides to fight back, Mr. Weber has a standard success. Yeah. So if I get a hard or an extreme, then I will do damage to him. Or you can dodge, which means that you'll move out the way, and even if you succeed, you don't take any damage. Or you could do a combat maneuver. And the combat maneuvers are there for just like issues like tripping people up or pushing them out the way or something like that. It's not when there's a specific. You don't have things like Mithras does. The other thing that you somewhere on your character sheet it'll say something like build.
Yeah, I was wondering what that is.
Yeah, that comes into combat maneuvering. So yeah, so you take a swipe at at Otto, and so what he's going to do is he's going to he's going to dodge out the way.
Bring it, Otto. Try and dodge my fist of fury.
Yeah, he gets a 14. Which is also a standard success. So in which case you do the damage. So how much damage does he do?
I did max damage with that roll, 4.
Oh, cool. So he's got that amount of hit points.
It's kind of a sad amount of damage, but feels nice.
Nice roll. Cool. Yeah, and now it's Otto's turn. So Otto's going to try to come down on you, Mr. Weber, and try to engage its mouth to actually bite you. Okay, so he'll roll. Yeah, so I get a success. So you have a choice now. You can either dodge or you can fight back. Now, I've got a standard success. So in order to win, you need to get a hard or an extreme success.
Okay, and if I want to fight back because I'm not going to let this weirdo bite me.
So just roll your brawl skill.
Would I roll the fighting brawl or would I roll the knuckle dusters as if I was attacking?
The knuckle duster one, yeah.
Okay, cool. And good luck to me. If it clicked, I don't think it clicked.
Nothing happened. There we go.
There you go. It's a success. So fight back, level success wins, draw. the initiator wins, which is me. That's what happened last time when you hit him. So he does some damage to you, Mr. Weber.
I've got a question real quick, and this might be too late, regarding luck.
Yeah.
If I paid to get down to a 32, which would be 10. Math, is that 9 points?
Yeah, 9 points. Yeah. No,
I would.
11 points it would need, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, I did my math wrong. If I spent 11 points of luck, I would succeed at this.
Yeah, and then you would then win. Because so I'm quite happy to let you do that until we learn the system. So you can take 11 points off that, which will actually make it a hard. You've gained a hard success, and I've only got a normal success. Therefore, you win.
I'm going to do exactly that, going from 26 luck down to 15.
Okay, so you, as he sort of like reaches his mouth down to try to engage its teeth into your neck, you sort of like bring your knuckle duster across and you whack him square in the face. Do some damage for me, please.
It actually listed the damage there.
Oh, yeah, 3 points. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't know whether or not you had a strength modifier to go onto it, or whether or not.
I don't at all.
Okay, cool. So just to let you know, if you're fighting back, the person, and it's a draw, i.e. you both get standard success or both get extreme whatever. If it's a draw, then the person who initiated the combat wins. So you will take damage or you'll give damage out. If it's a dodge, the defender wins. If it's a draw. Okay. So if you think about it, in my head it's logical, but just to let you know. Okay. So that's his go gone. So Mr. Peabody, you're up.
So as Otis, was it?
Otto.
Otto sort of like goes down to bite. He'll sort of like once again try to whack him on the side of the head or with his cane.
Yeah, cool. Roll your brawl skill. Yeah. So now see, there's no point. Are you going to use luck?
Yeah. So I want to use, what will it be if I use 6 points?
It'll be a standard.
Yeah.
So in which case, Mr. Otto rolls his brawl as well, and gains an 87, which means his bite fails. So in which case, you win.
I'm going to have to rely on Mr. Pickles to tell me what a club damage is.
Club damage is small club. There's small and large clubs. A small club would be D6 plus damage bonus. A large club would be D8 plus damage bonus.
Okay, so it'd be a D6 because it's just.
And do you have a damage bonus?
No, I do not.
No, cool. Then. So just roll your D6
then. So he whacks it on the side of the head for 3 points of damage.
Yeah, cool. Okay then.
And he'll say, "Unhand him!"
Yeah. So this poor zombie person is just like, he's trying to take a bite after Mr. Weber and being whacked on the side of the jaw. And as he comes back, you sort of like follow on with your cane and whack him again. And so he's just sort of like being bashed from one side to the other. Dr. King, you up?
Dr. King just stands there and goes, I would normally abhor violence, but I'd say good show, chaps.
Okay. Mr. Weber, you're up.
I'm going to keep trying to pummel him with the knuckle dusters, and with each punch or swing, I'm going to be like, stop being weird!
Excellent.
I don't appreciate him biting me. I'm going to go ahead and roll. Good luck.
So he will roll his combat return. That was strange. Right, so we both got a standard success, which means who wins?
Weber does.
Weber does, yeah, because he was the initiator. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so is that 2 points of damage that I take?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Cool. And now, who was that turn? Sorry. Have we gone? Yeah, we've gone down. That was Weber. So it's my turn again.
Yeah.
So he's sort of like, he's coming back the other way now. So he's going to try to bite you, Mr. Peabody, as he goes back round.
Okay.
Right, he gets a 2. So that is an extreme success.
Right.
So you got a choice now. You can either dodge. Well, these are your options. If you use your combat skill, you're going to lose. Because even if you get an extreme success, I initiated it, so I'm going to do your damage.
He's gonna try to dodge out the way, almost like falling backwards as this.
So
comes.
now, you need an extreme success, and if you gain an extreme success, then you dodge out the way.
Okay. Fail.
Yeah, and you can't.
Oh, no.
You can't. No. You can't luck that one. So he. Sorry, I just need moved his character sheet out the way. So he sort of like attacks you and does 4 points of damage that comes off your hit points now. And he sort of like brings out, he doesn't sort of like, he closes his teeth on you and you feel it scrape across your neck, and then he just sort of like carries on going. And so he's sort of like, it's more like a rake across your throat as it goes across, and then you notice that round your neck, your shirt is bleeding. Yes, Mr. Peabody, you're up.
Almost like taking back his he swings again, going ah.
Go for it.
Curse you!
Yeah. So, do you wish to spend any luck?
No, I can't get it down that far. I don't have enough luck.
Okay then. So, Dr. King, your turn.
Dr. King is just going to go, careful, Peabody!
Okay. Mr. Weber, you're up.
Oh, I'm gonna just go on trying to beat this guy up until he's off of my pal. I'm not letting him consume Peabody for lunch. And with that, I will roll my knuckle.
And fail, yeah.
Because I'm just probably.
You obviously don't think that highly of me.
No.
I'm panicked. That's why I'm not being as effective.
And then Otto now tries to bite at you, Mr. Weber.
Kind of successful then.
And gets a 12. So.
Oh my gosh.
Are you sure your dice rolls are working properly?
Yeah, 12. Yeah, so what do you wish to do?
That sounds like a hard success for him. I'm going to go with my beautiful dodging capabilities.
What was it? Half. Yeah, so it is a hard success, yeah. So you go to dodge then, go away.
Not quite.
No, not quite. And he does some damage to you, and you take 4 points of damage as he rakes his mouth across you as well, across your shoulder. You feel it sort of like dig in, and then you feel the moisture of blood starting to ooze from it. Mr. Peabody, you're up.
Changing tactics, seeing what's just happened. Peabody's going to go low this time and try to whack him on the knee or behind the knee, maybe catch him off balance.
Yeah, so holding the lantern behind you, you sort of like try to whack him on his legs. Go for it.
This time I am going to use 4 points
of luck?
4 points of luck.
Yeah, okay. I get 24, which is a success as well, but you're the initiator, so you do the damage to me.
Okay, just ignore the actual roll. This is just giving the damage because I forgot to do the...
2 points. Yeah, okay. Dr. King.
Does he fall over because I've hit his leg?
No.
Dr. King is going to take just a half step forward to try and get a closer look at Without getting too close, he wants to try and get a closer look at Peabody's neck.
Without getting too close to Peabody, or
yeah, because he's in the middle of combat and he doesn't want to have a walking cane
then. Yeah.
hit in the back of his head or
Weber, you're up.
Rush at him.
Presuming he'd just bit me, so he's probably close. I'm gonna try and either uppercut him if it's
you can
doable, or if he's like raking down, then I'm gonna try and punch him in the back of the head.
Yeah, cool.
Either way, let me give you a roll. I'm just in pain. I can't.
Can you can use
Oh wait, I might be able to. Yeah, I'm gonna give some of my dwindling points from 15 down to 10 to get a standard.
Okay, so that's a standard. So this is his roll.
Go ahead and try and dodge that.
He gets a 19, which he does dodge it. He doesn't dodge it because you're the initiator. So 15 is his hard. So it's just a standard roll. So you need to do some damage, which is 2. Yeah,
excellent.
And sort of you bring your knuckle duster upwards, and you sort of like plant it squarely underneath his jaw and gives it an almighty bash. And he just sort of like slow motion, sort of like whirls for a while, and then just sort of like collapses onto the floor, unconscious.
Putting the lantern down on the floor, Peabody puts his cane in his hand and takes out a handkerchief and holds it up to his neck, where to try to staunch the flow of blood.
Yeah, just as you do that, can you make listen rolls for me, please?
Would that be all of us, or?
Yeah, you could probably all hear this. Peabody, do you wish to use any?
He will indeed. What do I need? 9.
You just need to take 9 off.
Yes, I will do.
Dr. King, you need to take 14 off to hear.
Dr. King will take 14 off.
Okay, so you can both hear from the door up above, along the corridor from the room here. It's now open, and you can hear the voice of Raspini, the great Raspini. You can actually hear him. He seems to be talking, and you're not too sure what he's actually saying, but he seems to be bragging about something. What do you wish to do?
Peabody's going to.
Sorry. Are you okay, Peabody? Do you want me to have a look at that?
No time. He's going to pick up the lantern and head towards the door.
Okay, you can get there to the door. Mr. Webber, what do you want to do?
Blood dripping from my shoulder. I'm gonna stomp off after my cohort, see what's going on, filled with bloodlust.
And King will follow on behind.
Yeah, so as I'm just going to reveal what you can see.
Ooh.
Can you see the other half of the room now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just make sure I know.
What's in the ones that says TNT?
Breath mints, mate.
Yeah. Let me just. I just need to get my bearings.
Everlasting gold stoppers, humbugs, that sort of thing.
Gobstoppers, yay!
Okay, so this you can see here. There seems to be TNT right the way around the room. This area here seems to be a table, and Peabody and Webber, you can see this. It seems to be full of books and artifacts and everything like that. And then over here, okay, I'm just going to draw that, and then I'm just going to draw I'm just going to bring on Otis here, who's going to be the great Raspini. And what you can see it's like on the eastern wall. It's some kind of brass or some kind of a steel device, and it's sort of like festooned with gears and gauges, and there's sort of like steam hissing out of it, and there's sort of like sparkling electrical wiring going like that. And gagged and tied to this contraption is a young woman in a green velvet dress that you immediately recognize as Rose, and stood in front of her, towering above her, is almost like this massive specimen of a man, and he has his hand on the large copper switch. Can you see it in the picture?
Oh, is it this thing that looks like a doorknob?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Peabody and Weber, you can see that, and so Mr. King, you're not at the doorway, and you can see it, and he seems to be reciting to himself, and he sort of like says, "Now, my dear, everything is set in motion. During tonight's performance, you will be raised through the stage floor directly above us, strapped tightly to a detonation device of my own design. Of course, your father will pay the ransom I have demanded, but by that time it will be too late. You and all the audience of this theatre shall be my sacrifice to Baal. No longer will I simply be performing parlour tricks, for I shall be a real sorcerer. Real magic will be at my disposal. After the world witnesses my performance tonight, they will bow before me, the great Raspini, as a god."
Like to make my way towards this so-called god.
Yeah, and
From the doorway, Peabody actually shouts, "Raspini!"
He says, he turns around to you as he shouts, and his hand sort of like rests firmly on the switch, and he says, "One false move and she's dead."
I think if you look carefully, you will see that I have a lantern in my hand. And it would also seem that there is a fair amount of TNT in this room. I don't think you will get out alive if I were to... Oh, maybe...
He doesn't even wait for your spluttering ending. He just guffaws with laughter, and he says, "Do you think the great Baal would sacrifice me? No, he will protect me. It will be you that gets blown to smithereens, and
You,
the whole
sir,
of the time."
I'm a charlatan.
He grabs hold of the thing as you're sort of like having this discussion backwards and
I'm
forwards.
just doing it, hoping that Weber is actually moving forward as I'm, because that was the thing that he was doing.
Yeah, he just sort of like puts his hand on the switch, and he just says, "You will die like everyone else."
I'm making my way towards him, stomping heavily, eye contact heavily, not saying anything.
Right. So are you actually just marching straight up to him then?
More or less, though I might hesitate if he gets a little bit happy with that lever.
Yeah, so he sort of like sees you purposefully stomping your way up to it, and he just sort of like sees you, and you see his hand sort of like grip even firmly onto the switch, and he says, "One false move and she dies."
Killing her is not going to protect you from my fists.
No, Baal protects me.
It's a bit off. Using a woman, isn't it?
He says, leave the room now while you still can.
King's
One
pipe
step on that bridge and the switch goes.
King's going to pipe up and say, if you kill the girl now, then you won't have a sacrifice for your Baal. And then you'll have to find another one. And that will ruin your plans.
He sort of like lets out a hideous laughter and say, she is tied, ready to be sacrificed, you fool of a man.
I don't care about finding this girl or keeping her alive. I just want to make you suffer. And I step onto the bridge.
Okay, and you step onto the bridge and he pulls the switch.
No!
And all of a sudden, this electrical charge just sort of like crackles down from all areas, and you see Rose sort of like contorted as this electrical electricity sort of like flows through her, and she lets out what appears to be a constant hideous high-pitched scream, and there's that faint smell of burning hair and flesh, and she sort of like arches her back up and sort of like racks backwards and forwards, and all you can hear is Raspini sort of like almost like hideously laughing again and again and again, as if he's sort of like completely enjoying the whole torture, the whole escapade, the whole danger. And
can King make either a medicine or a biology roll to see how long a human body can sort of like survive?
Well, you're a doctor. You will know that she's going to be dead after this. And he sort of like laughs. Raspini laughs for one last moment. And then Weber, you suddenly think, right, this is it. And you sort of like start to head across the bridge. And he's just sort of like almost like turns to you, lets out the smile, and he goes to the wall here. And he presses it. And the wall just snaps open. And he steps through and disappears, and the wall sort of like slams shut behind.
King's gonna shout to Weber and say, "Quick, turn it off! She might live if we can stop it soon."
I sprint for it.
Yeah, as soon as he sort of like took his hand off it, the electricity is sort of like stopped. It was one of those levers that you have to press down to keep the current, but once you leave go of it, it pops back up again.
In that case, King wants to try. Well, he wants to run over to her, and he wants to try and find a pulse.
Yeah, well, you what's your movement?
Oh, okay. So that's fine. 7, so I can move.
Yeah, so Weber, you'll be there. You'll be there first. Yeah, there's almost like Peabody. Yeah, okay. Weber, so you're sort of like there, and there's this sort of like wispy bits of smoke coming off Rose. She's all blackened, and her hair is fried to a crisp, and there's that smell of dead, burnt skin. Sort of like generating from her, and every now and again there's a sort of like a few sparks going across her. She looks dead.
I would hope so. I'll move past her. I want to try searching for that hidden door as best as my eyes can.
Yeah. Okay, so you move over there. Okay, guys. Dr. King and Peabody, what would you like to do?
Well, King is still going to be running over to the girl to see what state she's in, because I don't think he can quite see what state she's in.
Right, yeah, you get there and she's definitely dead. Peabody, what would you like to do?
Peabody comes over and he goes, "We failed. The young girl's dead.
But
what are we going to tell her father?
If we're quick, we still might be able to catch Raspini, and Britt still managed to bring him to justice."
Weber, you sort of like, can you roll a spot hidden roll for me, please?
Absolutely.
It needs to be a hard success. Yeah, you sort of like push round this this panel, but it seems that you're not too sure now. There doesn't seem to be a switch that you can find. Maybe, you know, it was activated by his handprint or something like that, or there was a special code, because it's definitely not opening for you.
I think, gentlemen, it might be time to inform the constabulary.
There's certainly a lot of explosives down here. And
Yes.
from what Raspini was saying, he planned to blow up the theatre.
It's definitely time, I think, for us to inform someone about this.
And who was this Baal he was referring to? Can I make a history roll to see whether or not...
Yes, you need to make an occult roll.
Occult?
Yeah. Yeah, you've never heard of Baal at all.
The only question that remains is do we take her out now, or do we leave her in this predicament until the constabulary arrive?
Is it safe to move her? There seemed to be a lot of electricity flowing through her.
I don't know. I know very little about electricity, I'm afraid.
We can't leave the poor girl down here. Weber, have you found a way through there yet?
You guys just hear Weber muttering and slapping at the wall. His knuckle duster is occasionally clanging against what is it, stone brick?
Yeah.
For God's sake, man, buy a gun next time.
That would have been nice. I would have liked to shoot that Raspini.
Yeah, especially with the TNT around. That would have been fun.
I tried to call his bluff, but he was having none of it.
Yes, and he didn't even seem to have any remorse or second thoughts about killing the girl here, even if it did ruin his plans.
Well, we definitely need to get the constabulary down here now. Maybe take Rose out first. After all, Mr. Johnson did want to keep it under the cover.
We can only try, but if the constabulary are going to be involved with this amount of TNT, and it's going to be hard carrying a body through the streets without anyone noticing.
As you wish.
So
Perhaps
what's the plan then, guys?
Perhaps one of you should go back and deliver the news, or perhaps it doesn't really matter whom. And get Murphy's help in removing his daughter here. You may have better means to approach it.
And then inform the constabulary.
Yes, this much TNT surely is not a legal thing.
Yeah, so okay then, so you can sort of like contact Murphy Johnson, who, as you can probably imagine, is absolutely distraught. Not only that has his daughter died, but the people he was trusting in to find her failed. And eventually the constabulary are called in, and they agree. They don't charge you for murder or anything like that, and they realise from the setup and the dead zombie person that they think is probably just makeup. Has stuff in his boots to make him 8 foot tall. They sort of like brush it off, and they sort of like congratulate you in a sense to uncover the plot that the TNT would have brought down the whole building. And they sort of like say at that point that, you know, you're sacrificing the life of one to save the life of many. There's probably the best thing to do. And they sort of like look at you, and they're quite impressed that you got down here so silently and sort of like stealthily in order to sort of like get down this far. And they're quite impressed with that, but they sort of like they don't want to completely congratulate you because of course Paul Rose Johnson is deaded.
And King will say, I noticed that some of you have been scratched and bitten along with myself. If we retire to my house, I can examine you and fix you up in my surgery. I have some good pills and some ointment, and can stitch up any cuts and that sort of thing.
Yes, that's fine.
Indeed.
Cool. So Mr. King patches you up, and your wounds are slowly heal over. And can you just roll your first aid skill, please?
Of course. Where's it gone? There it is.
Yeah, he sort of like cares to your wounds as best as he could, and you start to heal slowly, and you sort of like retire back to the Carlton Club, thinking about everything that happened, and we'll leave it there, and start again on the next job next time round. So, guys, where do you think you went wrong, guys? Or do you think
not killing him?
Say again, sorry. I didn't hear that.
Go ahead, long shakes.
By calling his bluff too early and just either not being quick enough, or in getting to him, or try and talk him down instead.
Yeah. I think for me, I was trying to get across to you
how much noise we were making.
Yeah, and that somebody had gone down before you.
Caught that part.
Yeah, we got
that. Yeah, that somebody was already down there. So and that's why I was sort of like thinking, you were having these huge sort of like debates. And it was very much sort of like you sank my battleship sort of like talks, but of course that has a consequence then. So technically what you could have done, I'm not saying this is the right way, and what you could have done is actually get down to that doorway, when you came into that door, that bedroom, and I said that there was a far door there, then you could have actually got to that point when you looked around the corner and they were busy. And so you could then actually stealth in if you wish. The TNT, I think, was a wonderful addition because it would make gunfire all the more interesting. The nice thing about it, you could have also, if need be, you could have, if you tried to disable the machine before it was fired, you actually had real 3 minutes time. So if anybody went, I'm going to try to disable it, I would start the clock for 3 minutes to see whether or not you could actually get it sorted. There was a series of rolls you had to do. But the interesting thing is that I think no matter what, I think the great Raspini would have escaped. And there was a great line that said, "You may have stopped me this time, but you have yet to see the last of the great Raspini," as he disappears in a puff of smoke somewhere, and then that's it. So yeah, then that would be the end. So well done. So before we go, let's have a look at your skills that you had ticks by. So let's start with you, Mr. Pickles.
For this session, I put ticks next to Fighting Brawl, Listen, Spot Hidden, and Stealth.
Excellent. So do you want to start doing some rolls? Which is the first one?
Fighting Brawl, and I want to get above the number I have, yeah?
Yes, you need to get above it. Yeah.
All right. So my Fighting Brawl?
Yeah, so the higher the skill, the harder it becomes.
So my Fighting Brawl is 65, so I want to get 66 or higher.
Yeah, so that doesn't increase, so you could take that tick off.
Done. Listen is a 50, so I want to get 51 or higher.
That's fine. Roll 1d10.
Whole D10.
So that's 6 points onto that.
I'm a good listener. Spot hidden is 68. So I want to get 69 or higher.
Yeah, nice one. So 1d10 for that one.
Oh,
yes.
Such nice. And stealth is a 20, so I want to get 21 or higher.
Yeah.
No tango.
No, nothing for that. Excellent. Okay, Mr. Peabody, what's yours like?
Does it also class if you used luck to get a success or not?
No, luck automatically increases, and that's done in a different way.
Okay, so if I used luck to get a successful of a skill, does it?
You still tick it, yeah.
Right. Okay,
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Okay, so I used charm, but that was last adventure.
Okay, so
but I went through and see what I had for
roll
that.
that.
My charm is 60.
Yeah, so you need above 60 then. Nope.
I used fighting brawl, which is 35.
Nope. Oh, you're not doing very well, Mr. Peabody.
I used occult, which is 25.
Yes! Roll 1d10. Yeah, so you get 5 back.
What else did I use? I used spot hidden, which is 55.
Nope.
I used sketching, which is 65.
Yes, 1d10. 10, nice. Anything
And
else?
last one, I used chemistry, which is 41.
No.
And that is me done.
Cool. And Dr. King, which skills did you use?
So I used spot hidden,
Okay. What's his spot hidden at?
25.
Yeah. So we'll roll 1d10.
1.
1 point.
So I'll take that one. What else did I use? I used occult, which is 30.
Okay. So above 30. Yeah. One roll d10.
7.
7 points.
I'll take that one. Used first aid right at the end there, which is 60.
Yeah.
Nope.
Nope.
And then I did manage to get 1 fighting brawl roll, which is 25. Yes.
Yeah. 1d10.
5.
5. Cool.
That's it.
Right. So that's everybody sorted out. Right. Who used luck today?
Me.
Okay.
I did.
We all did.
So let's do the luck rolls now to see how much you got back. So, Mr. Webber, what's your luck at the moment?
It is a firm 10.
Okay, so roll 1d100. Yeah, roll 1d10. 2, so you get 2 points back. Mr. Peabody.
Currently 33.
Okay. Yeah, roll 1d10.
39.
39. And Mr. King.
56.
Yeah, so roll 1d10. Yeah, and 4. Brilliant. So yes, so well done. That was your first escapade into the world of Call of Cthulhu. Lessons learned. Prep ready for the next weeks. So is everybody available next Thursday?
Yes. Should be. I'm on leave.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. So in which case we will come back next week and see what happens. So I will be back on Saturday in the afternoon, 3 o'clock, for some Elder Scrolls Online, and then we'll be playing Mithras on Saturday night, and we'll be able to see what happens in the murderous company. I think everybody's trying to kill everybody else at the present moment.
Probably at least once.
So until then, I'd like to say to each and every one of you, have fun, and I will catch you all later. And until then, consider yourself well and truly waffled. Have fun, guys. Bye.
Bye.